So hello, welcome to a brand new build, the Flying Scotsman. This is a build that I wanted to bring back for a long time, but because of the catch up that I've been doing on other videos, I haven't felt it's been wise until now. This is quite a complex build. This is a little bit what I call old school. So it's lots of playing with brass plates and things. There's a lot of new techniques, and as you know, I explain techniques the first time I do them. Once I'm repeating a technique, I just say, oh, I'm doing this. But it is a very long, complex build. So for that reason, I've split stage 1 into 2 videos. So you've got part 1A this week and part 1B next week. I have absolutely no idea how this is going to turn out. As you know, I will do my best. But I'm filming this having completed stage 1. And I'm fairly pleased with my results, and I hope that it will turn out to be a really good build. What could possibly go wrong? So welcome to step 1 or part 1 again of the Flying Scotsman. I have had to start again due to damages and losses as a result of moving, but here we are again. So if you are watching this in one video, then fine. I may split this into 2 videos. I really don't know at the time of filming, because of the things that I'm going to explain. They may take a long time. But I will, every time we introduce a new technique, I will explain it. So this is our model pieces for this particular issue, and this is how quite a lot of pieces will be coming, and this is what I call old school modeling. So you get the pieces on a fret, and then you have to cut them off. So the pieces that we've got is piece number 1, which is the cab sides left and right. Left and right. Then we get the cab floor, which is piece number 2. We have 4 it says we have 4 2 times front window beadings. That's these pieces here. Piece 5 is the washout hole beadings. 6 is the washout plugs, which we didn't receive. I'll go through that one in a moment. And piece number 7 are these 2 pieces here, these little snake like pieces, and they are the cab edge beading. Plus we received an extra part which is there, which we've already tried to practice on. So what we're going to be doing, the reason I said we didn't get the washout plugs, this piece here, it was supposed to have a hole in it, and then you were supposed to put a plug in it, but some issues came with it sealed up, or it was something along those lines. The ones that were sealed didn't come with washout plugs, and the ones that had the hole in them came with washout plugs. So if you can find my old issue 1 of the Flying Scotsman, you'll see that there is a washout plug there, but there was also a hole. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is take the pieces off the sprue, and the way that we remove these pieces is either with a set of metal cutters or a good knife. You cut them off just simply like that, and then where there's a sprue point, I'm going to call it a join, you just bring your knife as close as you can to the part, carefully push down, and a good sharp knife will cut through that brass. This is only a thin piece of brass at those connection points, so it will cut out easily. And then what we're going to do is, with a file, we're going to very gently remove those little pieces. Doesn't matter how good you cut this, there will be a little sticky out part. I don't know if you can see that just there, little nobule there, and we're just gonna, and use your finger. Sometimes you might be able to see it but you can't feel it. Sometimes you can feel it but you can't see it, and that's all we're going to do. That's piece, I think that's that, yep, that's that piece finished. So I'm going to get on and do the rest of these pieces, and I will see you in a moment. Okay, so earlier on you would have seen a very good example of it might be the wrong tool for the job, it might be using it wrong, but I managed to snap my blade. For something like metal you really want a sturdier knife, so this is thankfully I had this to hand, so I was actually able to change out my knife without without actually needing to stop the camera. But make sure it's a sharp blade. That one certainly did help, and again, like I said in a previous video, I cannot recommend this build for anyone under the age of 18. This is me personally, so be very careful with knives. So we have cut our pieces out. Now you can clean these up now, or you can clean them up as and when you need them. I'm going to clean the large pieces up now, and then we'll just key up the smaller pieces later. And when we clean these up, all we need to do is get some very fine sandpaper. I've got 800. The finer you go, the better. And what I'm going to do is just give it a very light rub in 2 different directions all over. And what that has done is just taken a little bit of the muck off. You don't need to get everything off, but it's also made that surface slightly uneven, which means that glues and paints and things can stick to it a little bit better. So I'm going to carry on and clean these up. Okay, well that certainly flexed the muscles a little bit. So I'm going to use the word old school quite a lot in this build. We've done an awful lot of work and we've not actually built anything, and that's really because of that's the way that the prep is done. But the first bit we're going to be doing is so I've got to figure out, so we're going to be doing this piece. I'm actually going to move, yeah, I'm actually going to do this piece first. The instructions are quite clear. It says stage 5 is to remove all the pieces from the fret, and how to cut them off. Stage 7 is to bend these and then remove any marks. Then you need to be looking at you need to be checking the fit with this. Well, obviously if you haven't bent this, you're not going to know the fit, so this one really needs to be bent first, in my opinion, because what's happening is this bit is going to be bending around a corner, and that's going to match with this piece here, and then this top piece is going to be bent not at a 90-degree angle, but an angle that's going to meet this. So this will actually go on like that. So you can see this piece there is going to match there, but once this piece is bent up, it's then going to match there as well. So I think it's important to bend this piece first. So to do that, we're going to need our photo etch bender. There are alternative ways to bend metal, brass pieces, but in my opinion this is the best way to do it. So as explained in a previous video, we have these little marks here, these little areas, and if we were bending, I know we won't be bending this, but if we were bending this, for example, we could clamp that into that bit. This would normally be turned around, and this is the bending area. So we look at one that was going to fit nicely. The piece in question we're going to bend is this. So as you can see, it's not going to fit in, so we're going to use these. And in fact, this might even be too small. No, got away with that. So the piece that we bend is always going to be scored. I don't know if you can see that score line down the middle there. And we're always going to see there, it's flat. We're always going to bend into the score line. So this piece is going to be bent like that. And what we need to do is we need to place this into the photo etch bender, and we just lightly clamp it down. So let's see, with some force I can still move it. That then enables us to get a closer look, and we line this up so that you can see half of the score mark. And then we can clamp it down a little bit further, and if we feel it needs adjusting, we can just undo one side, and you just keep adjusting that until you're happy. So what I've done is I've now trapped that part. That part is not going to move out of there, that's been held tightly. And then this is a very large piece. Maybe I should have actually, in fact, let's do the job properly, shall we? Let's bend the smaller part. It's just going to be a little bit easier to handle, bearing in mind that really this photo etch bender is pushing a little bit too small for this size of piece. But these photo etch benders are very expensive. I think this was about £40, but that's doing it from memory. But it is a very high, this is one of those tools where you can bend a piece with a pair of pliers if you do it carefully, and you think, oh, I don't need one of these. Once you've used one, I don't think you'll wonder how you managed without it. So because this is a large piece, I can use my thumbs. What I'm going to do is, applying equal pressure all along, I'm just going to pull this up. And because we've positioned this correctly, you can see that it's bent along the score line. Now we can put that back in again and bend it further if we want. To be honest with you, once it's reached a certain point, we can just bend it on the table. And then what we want to do, it says that we want this at 90 degrees. So shall we be a little bit flash, guys? And let's get out one of my 1, 2, 3 blocks, and we can check that. And I think that's not quite bent enough, so I'll bend that just a tiny bit more. And I would say that's pretty good. I'm very happy with that. There may be some purists out there that say no, that's no good, that's half a degree out, but I think for the purposes that I'm building, I think that's absolutely perfect. So what we can do now then is begin to bend these sides, and as couple of little lugs on the side, and these will go into there. So they've made the job a little bit easy for us when it comes to glue up, solder, however you want to do it. And what's going to happen is we're going to be gluing along the tabs there, and then that bottom will rest there. So I think the easiest way, once we've bent all of this, is just to glue just this side piece there, and then we'll come back later and then we'll try and apply glue along there. And I think that, in fact, actually we might be able to do that all in one. And I think I will leave that to rest with a 1, 2, 3 block on it, just to keep that as straight as we possibly can. So let's do some more bending then. So this is going to be a slightly more complex bend, because firstly I've just said to you, that is right. So we're bending this inwards, which means this is going to be the outside. Yeah, I can't see any more detail. So this is going to be the outside, not the inside. The inside, not the outside. Which way round am I? Because we're going to be bending this inwards, that's going to come in round. So now what's going to happen is, if we bend this incorrectly, if we bend this piece first, when we come to push it in further to bend the second piece, and I'm really sorry, right, I'm just going to turn the camera off for a little bit. I think that's a bit easier. So when we come to bend, to be honest with you, it's easy with the camera on, isn't it? Right, so when we bend this first line, if we then push it in further, when we come to bend this line, when we clamp it down, it's going to flatten all the work we've done in the first bit. So what we need to be doing is bending from the outside. Pull it out, bend it, pull it out a bit more, bend it a bit more, and we just want to get the bend started. So what I'm going to do, and now also I like to bend using the middle wherever possible, because that applies more equal pressure. Unfortunately I can't do that, because as you can see, as I place this piece in, it's going to trap this piece, so we have no option but to use the end. So I'm going to try and clamp that in, and I'm going to clamp this end down, and I think I'm going to struggle here. No, I'm not. This is just the right size actually. I have a little stopper there, and I can't push it in any further than that, but to be honest with you, this works absolutely fine. So let's get our piece in, and then what we want to do is line it up so that the score hole is just visible. Whoops. This is what happens when you don't clamp it down enough. So I think that's visible too much. There we go. Now if it's a small piece, the way you grab this is to pop this little razor blade underneath, and then you can lift up the razor blade. To be honest with you, the size of this piece, I think you can lift up the whole thing, and we just want to give that just a little bend. Not much at all. It's going to be a multiple bend, so I've just done it that much, you see. And then what I want to do is pull it out just a little bit more, and then we can bend that second line out a little bit more, and then do the third line, and then we can start using this if we feel necessary. and then we'll just keep bending that until we run out of lines to bend. And what's going to happen is, even if you didn't quite get this lined up properly, it will still bend along the line, because force is actually quite lazy and it actually takes the path of least resistance. Right, I'm actually starting to have a struggle now because this piece here is starting to rub along the table. So what I need to do is we need to lift this up a little bit, perhaps put it in a vise or something. So now I've got a little bit more room there. And I just want to catch that last little bit. There we go. So I've started to bend this now, and I know this isn't going to fit properly, but let's do a little test fit. And then we can see it starting to form along that corner. So what we need to do now is take a circular object, a piece of doweling, a piece of metal that just happens to be the right size. I'm actually looking for a round file, and what I'm going to do, being careful not to catch this bit, is I'm just going to continue moving this up, wrapping it around a file, not using it as a file, we're using it as a round object, and we're just gently teasing that and then test fitting it. And we can see there it's starting to come into place now, isn't it? I'd say we're about halfway there. So I just want to tease it in a bit more, mainly on the ends now. Oh, we're nearly there, aren't we? In fact, yeah, that's tantalizingly close, but not quite. I think I've overbent it on the ends, but not enough in the middle. So what we'll do is we will just tease that more in the middle. And we'll just keep going until we get the shape that we like. There we go, I managed to finish that one by hand. There we go, I'm happy with that. So the next stage then is that we want to just bend this top piece until it's about level there, which I would say is roughly a 45-degree angle, and we can easily do this in the bender photo etch tool, I think it's actually called. And I will need some assistance with this. If I pull this up now, it's going to bend in the middle there. So what I actually want to do is I want to use this little tool. Be careful with this, guys. In fact, actually that's not going to work, so I think I'll try and use a knife. And possibly use the fret that it came from. Just something just to leave her underneath, and I've not even clamped that down enough. There we go. And we'll check that for fit. Ooh, do you know, I think I've hit this one first time. How's that look? How spot on was that? Right, so guys, I'm going to do the second one, and I will catch you in a moment. Okay, so I used a couple of little different techniques there to get it bent, and you know, I used the back of the knife. You use whatever you can, but make sure you're using a flat edge and rounded edges. And also the second one was a lot easier to do because I'd already practiced on the first one, so that second one is actually simple. So the next stage that we want to do now, the instructions are telling us to use super glue. That's where I went wrong the first time round. The super glue just isn't strong enough. Now let me show you this from this is what I'm calling issue 0. I tried to test different solders, and as you can see, I completely and utterly failed. The suggestion to solder this together, what you'll do is you will touch a couple of points with glue, and then what you will do is you'll run solder along the joints, and that will be an absolutely superb join. Unfortunately, as you can see, I can't solder. What I've done here is, this is Gorilla Glue, and as you can see, it is very strong, but it does have its limits, and there you go. Now, a big shout out to P40F20. He explained to me what it's known as shear force. With super glue, obviously this is stuck, unstuck now, but the pulling power of it is absolutely amazing. But where it really weakens is I don't know if you notice when I pulled this off, but when I pull it upright, it does actually go, but when I pull it up, it's very, see how strong that is. But if I twist it, it comes off very easily, and it's a sideways strength that it lacks. So this is the downfall with super glue. We have a solution that I'm going to try. I have used this product in the past. A long time ago I had a broken 3D printer. A part had actually sheared off, and that was mainly due to the fact it was made of Chinesium. Now my choices were find something to fix it with, or spend £36 and wait 8 weeks for a replacement. The solution we looked at was this. This is called JB Marine Weld, and this is very similar in you use it in exactly the same way as a two-part epoxy, but it's not a two-part epoxy. It's a resin and a hardener, and this is actually, when I used it on my 3D printer, it was actually stronger than the original joint. So this is the glue that we're going to be using today. And this is only because I do not know how to solder. I have given it a try, guys. As you can see, look, there's lots of efforts there. I will be trying to learn how to solder, and I think soldering is it's one of those that you can't learn by watching YouTube videos. Electronic soldering, not a problem. That doesn't need to be done perfectly. It just needs to be done to hold, but soldering these, it's just not been working. So having said that, I will not be getting rid of my super glue. I will still be using super glue. So the general plan is, these parts here that need strength, these will be glued in with JB Marine Weld. These really do need to be strong. These parts, like this for example, that's going to be glued in with super glue. Super glue is going to be a lot easier to control. That doesn't actually go that side, does it? I can't remember. We'll find out in a bit. So these bits will be glued on with super glue because it's not the strength that they need. They just need to be stuck on there, and the super glue is a lot easier to control. So parts with strength, JB Marine Weld. Parts that just need to be put on, super glue. And this is a lot better super glue than I used for the previous one. So I'm going to take a very mini break and then I'll see you shortly. Okay, so on to the next stage. We're going to glue the sides of the cab on, and we're going to be using this glue, JB Marine Weld, and this is a 2-part glue, and it says surface must be clean, dry and oil free. Just squeeze out equal amounts from each tube and mix thoroughly. Setup occurs in 4 to 6 hours. Allowed to set overnight before putting object to use. If temperature is below 40 degrees Celsius, setting time will be longer. So this works exactly the same way as a 2-part epoxy. Of course, one of the advantages we'll have over this is because of that slower setting time, it means that we'll have a lot more working time. So one other thing that I want to get ready, if I can find some, which I don't have to hand, and that's, here we go, is masking tape, just in case we might just want to mask a little bit off. So what I'm going to do on something that is going to be thrown away afterwards, packing material, whatever, we don't need a lot. Why is that not coming out? That's really hard. There we go. So this is the resin part. As you can see, it's a gloopy black liquid, and then we want to put in an equal amount of hardener, and that's roughly the same. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix that well. So there we go, that is mixed. You know it's mixed because obviously using one part that's black and one part that's white, you know it's going to go grey when it's finished. So let's glue our parts together. So as always, we test fit first, and I think the key component is going to be this piece here because I can see it's shaped to fit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly spread. Don't worry about what should we call it, glue squidge, because this is a sandable product. So I'm going to lay down, which I need to just check, yeah. So the surface to be glued is all along this edge here, and I just want to make sure I get a thin layer all along. Right, so not the cleanest of jobs, but that's actually okay. I'm happy with that. So all I can do now is leave that overnight. So I will see you in a couple of seconds for you, but what will be overnight for me.